If capitalists don't stand up for capitalism, the implications are significant. Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who I haven't gotten a chance to meet yet, and I hope I get to have lunch or dinner with all of you at some point this week, my name is Alexander McCobin, and currently I'm the founder and CEO of Liberty Ventures and Principled Business, which I'll be talking about in a minute. But before I get there, I just want to say how excited I am to be talking with all of you today, because about 20 years ago, I was in your exact same shoes in a seminar just like this. It was put on by a different organization, but I was doing the same thing. I was 19 years old, discovering the ideas of classical liberalism for the first time, or at least being surrounded by other faculty members and students who were interested in these ideas, and just illuminated by the rich conversations, not just in the presentations you're hearing all week, but in the evening discussions, in the conversations over breakfast about limited government, about what capitalism means, and ways to defend these ideas and advance them in the world. And it set me off on a completely different trajectory in life than anything I could have imagined. When I was in your shoes, I expected to just go off and become an attorney and spend the rest of my life as either a corporate or constitutional lawyer. That was the path for me. But this introduction to the world of ideas first led me to think maybe I should become a philosophy professor instead. And I went to graduate school planning to live in the ivory tower. And I have so much respect for all the professors you're hearing from today who have gone and started to transform the world of ideas through academia. It is a noble pursuit. But I realized for myself, that wasn't my comparative advantage in advancing liberty. I wasn't nearly as good at reading and writing philosophy and making a difference there as I was at organizing, because you see, it was actually meeting other people at seminars like what you're doing here that I decided to start an organization called Students for Liberty that was introducing the principles of a free society to young people around the world, providing them with leadership training to go and make a difference in their communities. And over the course of a decade after starting that in 2008, it turned into something so much bigger than I ever imagined. And a number of you are still a part of Students for Liberty today, which warms my heart and really inspires me to continue this cause of liberty in the world. But I actually left Students for Liberty in 2016 because in addition to working with so many incredible young people, again, like yourselves, who were doing things such as starting unicorns in Silicon Valley, both Thumbtack and PandaDoc were begun by Students for Liberty alumni, or leading protests in Brazil in 2016 for tens of millions of people that led to the impeachment of the president Dilma Rousseff for corruption that year. I also got to work with some amazing donors. I had to raise money in order to be able to support the leadership training programs we were doing, to put on conferences, to put on seminars like this. And I got to connect with some incredible business leaders, luminaries, including John Mackey, the founder of Whole Foods, who not only was a donor to the Students for Liberty, he became a mentor and then a friend. And he had written a book in 2013 called Conscious Capitalism about elevating humanity through business, articulating the business philosophy of Whole Foods that he had developed over decades, that you've been learning about this week, that you're going to hear more about going forward, that really motivated me as an individual and as a leader. And after building a great relationship with John, he actually recruited me away to go run Conscious Capitalism, the nonprofit organization he had started, to spread that philosophy to other business leaders. And for 6 years, I got to connect with thousands of other incredible leaders like John. It was an experience of a lifetime. I can't tell you how rewarding it was to be surrounded by those incredible individuals, to learn from them, to get the opportunity to develop relationships with them. And after 6 years, it became apparent to me that I no longer just wanted to run Conscious Capitalism, the nonprofit. It was time to go be a conscious capitalist myself. And that is the motivation behind Liberty Ventures and Principled Business now, and what I'm going to talk with you about today, the importance of purpose, because over the course of my whole life, my purpose has really stayed the same. I have been committed to helping people lead meaningful lives, and a key component of doing that, a precursor to people being able to lead meaningful lives, is for people to be able to lead free lives, to choose your own purpose and what you want to do in the world. But then from there, to get the training, the connections, and the support to go and live out your purpose. And that's the amazing thing about capitalism. There is no set end to what we are all striving for under a capitalist system. It is a free and voluntary exchange of goods and services for you and every other person to choose what you want to spend your time on in life, what value you want to create for others, what others are creating that you find valuable, that you get to work on. And it's up to you to make your own choices as to what your purpose is and how to live that out. And we're going to have a little bit of a workshop after I give some opening remarks to help you think about your purpose and how to live that out through a capitalist system. But before we get there, I'm going to say from the outset what I hope to do, what I want to persuade all of you to at least consider from this opening talk. And I've got a few more talks this week where we're going to dig down into this even more. But my hope is that every one of you here considers, if you're not already doing so, to be a capitalist, if you care about classical liberalism and advancing the ideas of capitalism. And by that I mean for you to be an entrepreneur or go and work in business to advance these ideas. Now, at one level, this should be pretty obvious. If we care about capitalism, we should be participants in the system. And at a certain level, everyone is. But at another level, I find that this is often overlooked in the world of classical liberalism. I overlooked it for a long time. Remember, I nearly became a philosophy professor myself because I love ideas. I love reading books. I love engaging in critical debate. It is so much fun. And I thought the best way to continue that on was to go into academia. And we absolutely need great academics developing modern applications of classical liberalism, defending these ideas against our critics. But we also need people to do other things to advance these ideas. Obviously, we need people who are in politics, who are advancing certain ideas. We need people in the media espousing ideas to larger groups than just classrooms and other academics. But we also need great business leaders who understand the system of capitalism that they operate in. Because far too often, there are business leaders who don't actually support capitalism. Now, before I get there, even though I think all of you understand at a certain fundamental level how great capitalism is, I just want to recap a few of the things that capitalism has done over the last 200 years as to why it is such an amazing system for humanity. Now, we all know that Adam Smith is the intellectual father of capitalism when he wrote his book, The Wealth of Nations, in 1776. And I think a lot of you know that he actually built this framework upon a moral system that he developed in his theory of moral sentiments over a decade before. But we can really look at that time frame as the start of modern capitalism. And if we compare where humanity was back then to where humanity is right now, the results are absolutely incredible. A little over 200 years ago, 85% of the world lived in extreme poverty, defined as less than $1 a day. As of 2024, that's now down to 9.2% and continues to decline. A decade ago, it was 16%. We see abject poverty being eliminated in your lifetime thanks to the free enterprise system. Back in 1820, the average GDP per capita globally was a mere $1,300. Today, it's $17,527, a 1,246% increase in the average wealth for individuals across the world, which leads to better living standards for individuals. Global average life expectancy has risen from 28.5 years in 1800 to 71 years in 2022. World literacy has gone from 12% in 1820 to 87% in 2022. When we talk about economic growth that has come about from capitalism, we're not just talking about money, as in paper or Bitcoin or anything like that. We're talking about real living standards that have become better for people. And this isn't just happenstance. It's because capitalism is based on certain fundamental premises, certain principles that have allowed individuals to participate in the system and create this kind of abundance for humanity. Now, there are different principles people will emphasize here, but from my reading and studying, there are 5 key principles to capitalism as a system that has allowed this kind of flourishing. The first is respect for individual agency. As a system of voluntary cooperation, capitalism demands that we see every other human being as an end in themselves, that they have the right to choose what they are going to do with their life, who they buy from, who they produce for, what they do, in a way that other systems don't respect. Second principle is value creation. The concept of profit is not an end in and of itself in capitalism. The reason why is that profit is actually a means to pursuing a higher purpose. It is a way of measuring the amount of value created, but that value is something different from profit. But the focus of every actor in a capitalist system is on value creation to generate profit in order to be able to grow their business and deliver more value for other people. The third principle is that of aligning interests. When individuals act on our own, we're able to take care of ourselves to a certain extent. But capitalism facilitates trade and collaboration between individuals and actually makes it the priority of everything that we do in our economic system to encourage trade that meets the needs and desires of other individuals, so that when I'm choosing what I'm going to spend my day on, I'm thinking about you, or I'm thinking about other people. And I'm not just thinking about what's in it for me, I'm thinking about how I'm able to create value for you that's going to benefit me. Which leads to the fourth principle of collaboration. Fundamentally, when we're thinking about creating value for other people and engaging in trade, we're not looking for ways to be in conflict with each other. This actually flies in the face of what most people describe capitalism as, a highly competitive system, a dog-eat-dog world. It actually facilitates a desire to do right by other people, to develop a positive reputation where people want to do business with us, and to find ways to help each other out. It is fundamentally a collaborative system. And fifth, capitalism is based on the principle of opportunity. Instead of establishing a strict hierarchy of what matters or who's going to do prescribed tasks, it is a meritocratic system that encourages people to explore different ways to create value, that gives you the opportunity to decide what business you're going to work for, what business you're going to start, and allow people to challenge each other to do better and bring new ideas to the market in order to help other people out. These aren't abstract economic ideas. These are very real principles grounded in the way that capitalism is set up that leads to human prosperity and benefits. Now, even all of that may sound right at an abstract level, but I know that you're hearing a lot of theory here yesterday and today. So let's start to get really practical here and start to talk about the way business leaders actually interact with capitalism. Because this is a call for you to be a capitalist and to be a capitalist for capitalism. And the reason why, as I said before, there are a lot of capitalists that don't support capitalism. There are a lot of causes for this, and we need to understand what they are in order to address that and help you and others actually stand up for capitalism. Now, it is the case that some capitalists just don't understand capitalism as a system. They define it differently than a free and voluntary exchange of goods and services, including the private ownership of property. They don't understand the fundamental premises of capitalism and need to be educated themselves because they've been so focused on their business, they haven't explored the system in which they operate. There are some capitalists that actively oppose capitalism because they feel guilty for being in business, because they feel guilty that they have done well in the system and that something must somehow be wrong, that there are disparities. There are some capitalists out there who are scared to speak out for fear of being attacked. They may know that capitalism is a system that generates prosperity for everyone, that's grounded in a moral framework, that respects the individual dignity of each person, that facilitates collaboration, that is premised on voluntary trade, but they don't want to be criticized themselves. They don't want to be seen as the evil, greedy business person who's destroying the world. And so they criticize capitalism. Some capitalists, of course, aren't actually practicing capitalism. And this is one of the ways that we can start to take the principles of capitalism and apply them to the world of business. Because there are business people out there who are not actually creating value. There are business people who are looking to extract value from the system, whether by engaging in fraud, in theft, in just taking things from their businesses, from their owners in order to benefit themselves at the expense of everyone else who has invested in the company. Those people exist. And we need business leaders who are going to live up to the principles of capitalism to make sure that people understand what the system is all about. But also, there are some capitalists out there who know that capitalism is a good thing, who want to stand up for it, but they make bad arguments for capitalism. They do a poor job actually defending it because they don't connect their personal stories with it. They perhaps decide they should focus on why profit is the end-all be-all of business, why we should focus on numbers over people, why selfishness is a good thing, instead of making a stronger case for how capitalism benefits everyone or the moral underpinnings for it, as Adam Smith did himself. And this is a problem for capitalism and classical liberalism. Because if we can't assume that others will protect capitalism, whether society at large, the government, associations, non-government organizations, or anyone else, if capitalists don't stand up for capitalism, the implications are significant. There's a need for business leaders to have a peer network to support each other and advance capitalism. There's a need for business leaders to have the resources and the training to advocate for these ideas. There's a need to get the best and brightest, like all of you here, to go into business, to create more value in the world and become outspoken advocates of capitalism and examples of it that inspire other people. And to challenge the dominant narrative that capitalism is a result of bad actors being more commonplace than good actors creating value for others. That's why, as I've said before, we need capitalists for capitalism. Because just like the ideas you're hearing this week, it's not just about the theory. It's about how we implement the theory of capitalism that people understand and how they interpret the world. The principal actors of capitalism being business people means that when other people think about capitalism, they think about business people. They're not thinking about the world of ideas as we might like them to. They're thinking about their individual experiences with their bosses. They're thinking about the experience of an airline turning them away at the gate. They're thinking of their experience getting a faulty product shipped to them via the mail. They're thinking of every bad thing that's happened in a business as an example of capitalism. And the best way to challenge that is to run a great business that people are excited about, that they love, that lead them to want to go into business as well. And that's why it's imperative for any of you who support capitalism and are thinking of being a capitalist to go into business, to do so in 3 ways. to go and be the best representative of capitalism that you can be, to be the best advocate of capitalism that you can be, and the best collaborator in capitalism that you can be. Now, here's what I mean. First off, in being the best representative of capitalism, think about the 5 principles of capitalism that I mentioned before: respect, value creation, aligning interests, collaboration, and opportunity. This looks different for every business and every business leader. But to be the best representative of capitalism you can be, it's important to apply those principles to the way you conduct business and interact with everyone that you impact. So, for example, when you're thinking about how you're going to market and sell products, think about ways that you're able to do so that treats people with the highest level of respect as rational individuals able to make their own choices, rather than engaging in manipulative advertising practices that people criticize all the time, or getting people to buy things that they don't need. Get them to buy things that they love, that will actually help them. There's an old saying in sales that I absolutely despise that I think represents this. I actually once interviewed someone for a sales position who told me he could sell ice to Eskimos. And I remember thinking to myself, why in the world would you ever want to do that? They don't need it. That is exploitative. That gives sales a bad name, and that gives capitalism a bad name. We need sales, we need products, we need businesses that treat people with the dignity they deserve as ends in themselves. And you're capable of doing that by building the best kind of business with the best products to do so. Or when it comes to value creation, think about what you're actually doing for people. Too often, capitalism is criticized for moving money around in a way that doesn't actually help people out. Sometimes this is called arbitrage, and that's actually really helpful to make sure that money is getting to the right places in the world so that it can be used effectively. But sometimes it just comes off as skimming money off the top that could be going to more useful places as well. People are inspired by those businesses that are actually helping their lives, where it's obvious that you're able to consume more calories or consume less calories, or you're able to have a more enjoyable experience in the world, where you get meaningful entertainment that makes your life better rather than rot your brain. Think about what you're actually producing and how it's helping people, how it's helping humanity be better off. That's what it means to really create value. In aligning interests, don't look at all of your different stakeholders, of your shareholders if you have them, customers, employees, vendors, as being at odds with each other. This is what's often taught in business school, that we have to make trade-offs. In order for shareholders to get a better return, you have to pay people less, or you have to charge more for products. Instead, think about the ways to align those interests and understand the complexities and interconnections between all of those stakeholders. Ways that you can create win-win-win opportunities so that you're actually able to pay employees more, to give more value to customers, to create long-term relationships with suppliers, and still deliver better results for investors. We have plenty of examples of companies who take this approach, like Whole Foods, Starbucks, and Southwest Airlines, and so many more. It can be done. It just requires a mindset shift in order to get there. The list goes on, but the point is, when you go into business, you are able to embody the principles of capitalism in your actions and in the business itself. And when you do that, you become a great representative of the system that you care about that inspires other people. But just being a great representative of capitalism, walking the walk, isn't enough. It's also important to talk the talk, to be an advocate of capitalism. And by that, I don't mean going out to podiums and simply ranting about how great capitalism as a system is in the abstract. Sometimes there's a place for that. Having meaningful theoretical debates is great. But more importantly, what business leaders are able to do is talk about their own stories and the work that they're doing to make capitalism incredibly tangible. When business leaders go out and speak, whether it's to a journalist or to the Rotary Club or to student organizations, about their own entrepreneurial journey, the challenges that they've faced, the people that they're helping out, and why they wake up every day to keep building their business and keep helping other people, that provides a model, a story, an inspiration that other people are able to follow. Those are the kinds of stories that people need to hear more, rather than just the narratives of the failings of businesses, of all the anti-capitalists who are in business, who are exploiting their workers, or are stealing from others through Ponzi schemes, or are creating things that make people's lives worse off just to make a short-term benefit. When you go into business, it is imperative to talk about what you're doing, to share your story, and use that to inspire others to want to do the same thing. And the third thing I said, remember, is to be a great collaborator in capitalism. When you're in business, as in life, you get to choose who you do business with, if you're going to do business with them. And there are different ways of going about that. Could be to go in cutthroat, to try and undermine everyone who's around you, to seek out the most you can get in any individual transaction, not thinking about the long term. Or it could be to go in and think about how you create long-term opportunities for everyone. How to develop great relationships with vendors, with customers, with investors and others, so that they want to keep working with you. How you display yourself and your ethics so that you're able to create more opportunities for yourself in the future. And there's also a choice of doing business with people who are going to think long-term, create that kind of value, and look for those opportunities in the future with you, or do business with people who are looking for that quick buck, who are going to undermine you wherever they can, who are going to actively work against your values and capitalist principles themselves. Not only is there an opportunity to work with other business leaders who believe in the principles of capitalism, who are seeking to be the best representatives of it and are advocates of capitalism, this is actually just good business. Because when you engage in trade with other business leaders who respect your own dignity, who are looking to create real value for you, who are trying to align interests, who are creating opportunities for you, and who are looking to collaborate, you're going to find new ideas for how to create things. You're going to find new partnerships. You might even actually just join forces and build businesses together. But it requires being committed to actually collaborating with each other. And this makes a difference. Because business leaders have more potential to shape society and promote capitalism than we realize. Building a movement of business leaders who believe in capitalism can have wide-ranging positive impacts to create a freer and more prosperous world. Consider how much control and influence business leaders have by virtue of the power of private industry. For example, in the US alone, 63% of our $25 trillion in GDP comes from the private sector. There are 5.7 million private companies and 5,000 public companies with employees, and representing over 132 million individuals. That is an incredible amount of influence that business leaders have over resources and over people and over the ability to change things in society. But the influence of business leaders goes far beyond money and people. It's about the dominant cultural narrative, the perception of business leaders, how they talk about it and how others talk about it. Because successful business leaders actually do inspire other people to be capitalists and business leaders themselves. Now, this may be obvious with some names that you know already. When Elon Musk talks about being in business or the companies that he's building and inspires people to want to be entrepreneurs like him, that is absolutely amazing. When John Mackey talks about conscious capitalism and inspires other people to go into business in a different way, that's amazing. When Peter Thiel goes out and talks about the need to go from 0 to 1 and inspires more people to start businesses, that's amazing. But there are so many other business leaders that may have even impacted some of your lives or others that aren't running billion-dollar companies. They're not getting mentioned in mainstream media. They're community leaders. They're running companies that do a few $1 million in revenue a year, where they're also volunteering on charitable organizations' boards. They're giving lectures to your classes or to other business schools. They're looking for ways to just inspire people to do right by others. But they have a position of influence because they're creating value, because they provide livelihoods for other people, because they've created institutions in the community. You don't need to plan to become an Elon Musk or a Peter Thiel to make a difference as a business leader. You just need to create a business that people value and respect, and so will listen to you as a result of being the person who started it or is leading it. This is especially so when people see positive examples of businesses in their community, when people call out the businesses that they love. Let me just give 2 other examples of businesses that really counter the narrative of capitalism as an evil and destructive system. The Texas grocery chain H-E-B is often valorized for being a place where the culture is one where customers and employees actually feel appreciated and loved. It leads them to actually promote the company themselves. It leads them to give up things for the sake of H-E-B, because H-E-B is there for them during environmental emergencies, natural disasters. Because H-E-B is there to make sure that they've got what they need whenever they are in need. The same thing goes, though from a different perspective, with Southwest Airlines. Customers and employees and people they interact with love Southwest, not necessarily because it's always there for them. It's an airline. It runs through problems too. But because it's created a culture that they love. It's weird. It's different. It's something that people feel expresses their own identity in a way that other more commercialized airlines don't. And that's because Southwest has thought very deeply about its purpose, about what it's trying to do in the world. And it has created the kind of business that people respect and love and want to see more of as an expression of capitalism. But then, of course, you might take it a step further and think about developing a business that advances freedom very explicitly through the service or product that you create. Companies like Signal, WhatsApp, Telegram have created ways for people to communicate with others that respects privacy and protects their interests that weren't available before. And privacy is encoded in the DNA of everything that they do. Uber disrupted taxi monopolies around the world, truly monopolistic systems, by developing a whole new industry of car ride sharing that has lowered costs, that's increased access to drivers and cars for people in areas that were underserved before, and have just done amazing things. And whatever you think about Bitcoin and crypto, whether you think it's a Ponzi scheme or actually a new monetary system or anything else, it has created an alternative system to the banking industry to send value around the world that is accessed by lots of individuals on a daily basis. It is an alternative option for people that didn't exist before. And lastly, as a business leader, you have the ability to convene in a way that few others do. It goes back to that sense of respect, that sense of influence in the community. But when local business leaders or national business leaders say that they want to have a conversation about an important issue, people listen. People will go to that lunch. People will respond to that phone call. Because business leaders are creating value. They're looking for ways to solve problems in the world. And if they've identified a new problem, other people want to listen. This is the power of business, to not just advance an individual business's interest, but to advance ideas like capitalism, like classical liberalism. And so, to advance humanity forward. There are two possible futures for us. One is a future without capitalism, and one is a future with capitalism, because it is under attack right now. And capitalists themselves are bringing it under attack. On the one hand, if capitalists don't stand up for capitalism, and if we don't have the best and brightest go into business to be the best representatives of, advocates for, and collaborators in capitalism, we not only will see progress decline, we might actually see humanity regress. We have seen this before in the history of humanity. We have seen civilizations decline because they no longer embraced the ideas that led to them progressing, because they no longer had people implementing those ideas in the real world. And if capitalists don't stand up for capitalism and focus on value creation, on collaboration, on the higher purpose of what they're doing, instead focus on value extraction first, where they see innovation as a cost rather than a profit, where they take advantage of others for short-term gains instead of long-term progress, we will see that regress. But on the other hand, if we get the best and brightest to go into business, to be capitalists for capitalism, when we imagine all of you and your friends and others that you go to school with, think about being entrepreneurs, executives, innovators who want to create value to turn the impossible possible. We can have a world without poverty, where life expectancy is 150 years, where literacy is universal, where average per capita GDP is another 1,000x greater than it is today. Imagine people see business as an opportunity to express their individuality, their personal desires, and the opportunity to create the world you want to live in. The possibilities are endless then. This is why we need capitalists for capitalism. And this is why I want to encourage all of you to consider being capitalists, to live up to these principles, to bring about that ideal future that we want. Now, I said we're going to talk about purpose, and we're going to get into a little bit of a workshop after this. But I'll take a step back from this to answer what might be on your mind, which is, okay, maybe you want to be a capitalist. Maybe you want to start a business, or you want to go join a business and help them do the right thing. What does that take? What are the things that matter most? Well, really, it comes down to three things. And the last one, which is most often associated with business, is actually the least important, or it's the one that is more of a byproduct than anything else, which is profit. You absolutely need profit. You need to make money in order to have a thriving business and be a capitalist. But that's merely a question of a business model, of how you monetize what you're doing in the world, what people are actually finding valuable and will pay for. You need to think about it, but that's the last thing to do. The second thing that really matters is people. Because at the end of the day, a business is a group of people working together to create value for other people. If you're going to be a capitalist, you need to think hard about what you're good at and what you're not good at. What makes you passionate, what you're going to spend your time on day in and day out. But also, who are the other people that you want to work with and that you can work most effectively with to create that value? Building the right teams, recruiting the right people, giving them the right support in order to grow is one of the most important things to do in building up businesses. But before you even get to that, the number one thing that drives business success that you need to answer in starting and building a business is what your purpose is. Why are you going into business in the first place? If it's just to make money, you're likely not going to succeed, because people don't want to just give you their hard-earned money themselves. They want to give it to you for a reason. People aren't inspired by just trying to bring money together. People are inspired by grand ideas, problems that you want to solve in the world, changes that it's going to make a difference. Inspired by causes like helping people lead healthier lives, causes like helping people get exposed to the world through travel, causes like helping end poverty by providing sustainable solutions to the challenges people face around the world. These purposes motivate everything else in a business. And so identifying your personal purpose and how that leads into the business's purpose then leads you to figure out what people you need to bring together in order to deliver this value into the world. And that will then lead you to figuring out the monetization strategy so you make this sustainable. But it all starts with purpose. And it all starts with your own purpose. So now is the time to actually do some work on that. Now, Bill, we've got 45 minutes left, right? Yep. Fantastic. So what we're going to ask is everyone to take out a piece of paper or a note or your computer or something else. And I'm going to give you 10 minutes right now. What I want you to do are two things. First, take 5 minutes, for the first 5 minutes, and just bullet out a list of everything you can think of that you want to do in your life, your personal life. This isn't related to any business. Just what do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish? What experiences do you want to have? Come up with as many of them as you can. Then, secondly, I want you to take 5 minutes and try to abstract from all of those and come up with a one-sentence statement of what you see your purpose as in life. Let's start thinking about people who can help you live out your purpose. We're running low on time and I want to be able to have a conversation at the end. So I'm just going to give you 5 minutes right now to start writing down two things. All about what people can help you live out your purpose. Either write down individual people that you know that you want that can help you do this in certain ways because of the skills that they have or your relationship with them. But secondly, also write down the values that you want to see in people that you work with to bring this about. Now, last part of this workshop. Now we're getting to the profits section. Just want you to take 5 minutes and start brainstorming all the different ways you could actually turn your purpose and work with some of the people that you've listed or the types of people you're thinking about into a business. What are some things that you can sell? What are some ways you can monetize this? And feel free to get creative and crazy. Maybe you're just going to be a consultant. Maybe you become a guru. Maybe you become an artist that inspires people to do things and you come up with certain types of art that you're able to actually sell in a system for it. Who knows? Just bullet out as many ideas as you can right now. There are no wrong answers here. Get the longest list that you can of things you can sell or businesses you can start that would live out your purpose. Thank you. I hope this was worthwhile and look forward to talking to you more.